Here, it's recording now. Thanks for the suggestions.
So for this one, I used the array method.
Which one?
So in this case, we're trying to reduce it. So I want to return an array that can be less. So I used filter.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, and I think actually that's the one you want. You could also, and that's the thing with these array methods, you can always just do a regular loop and just use like an outside variable and then modify that outside variable. I'll explain later, and I'll give you an example later on. So if I was to do this problem with filter, I would do, so first I declare a new variable in which the result of the filter will go to. And then this represent each element. Oh, forgot the filter here. This represent each element in that array. Okay, and I know I'm repeating myself, but I really want to kind of you guys to remember and to know this. But this inner function here is going to be called as many times as there's element, and each time it's called, its argument, its parameter is going to be equal to, well, you know, the element that it's currently looking at as it looks through it. And the way the filter array, the filter method works is in this inner function, if you return true, it means this element I'm currently looking at, I want to keep it in this new array that I'm going to create out of the filter. This particular element, I want to keep it. If you return false, it means I do not want to keep it. So if I just put return true here, new array is basically going to be an exact copy. And if I return false, what am I going to get as a result? Anyone?
An empty array?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, an empty array. So here I want to only keep people that have an age that's superior to this parameter here. So what I'm going to do is, first I'm going to write it out in a way that's has more lines of code, but is super like clean, clear, and understandable. So if person dot age is bigger than age, so I'm going into person, which is this object, and this object has two keys on the first level. It has a key name, and which is another object, and it has a key age. So if I do person.age, I get that number. So if that number is bigger than the one provided here, what do I want to return?
True.
Does everyone agree? Put an X if you agree. Okay, someone said person. That's interesting. Who said person? I mean, who agrees with this? Who think I should return person here? There is a case where return person would make sense if this was a map, okay? In the case of a filter, you can only return true or false. In the case of a map, what you return is what's going to be in the new array. I'm going to go, okay, one thing at a time. I'm going to finish this, and then I'm going to do a quick map example. So else return false. And then, so here's my question. Does this work, or is there something missing? Tricky question. Type X in the chat if you think it works. And type an O if you think it doesn't. Yes, Simon, exactly. So in theory, this works. Received undefined. Did I read it correctly? Oh, you have to return. Yeah, no, that's correct. I don't know why I'm receiving undefined. This is exercise 4. 30. Okay, honestly, I'm not sure what's going on here, and even this makes no sense because it says the expected is this, but here here the expected is an empty array. I'm just gonna run it through REPL. I don't want to. Oh, I think I forgot to save the file. Classic. Yeah. Okay. So it works. Do you need the brackets or not? Which brackets are you talking about? These? These brackets, you don't have to put them if there's only one line. If your if statement, if what comes after is only one line. Okay, so this works. Here's another thing. Does this work? Type X for yes, O for no. Anyone else? Anyone think it doesn't work? Or everyone is if you're not sure, type Z. Okay, not sure. Okay. Barrett, could you give me your opinion on what's going on and what do you think is happening and why are you on the fence?
I don't have a clue.
Okay.
I mean, I think I know what's going on. I mean, it seems like it's like the return. I guess it's like it would be true, like it was true or false.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this needs to return true or false.
Yeah.
That's correct. Yes. So I guess what is this equal to? If I console log this part, let's say I am looking at Alyssa. What would this give me as a log? Could you type, and everybody, could you type what you think in the chat? What do you think, Bharat?
Probably true.
Exactly. So this also triple equal. You know, if you do this gives you a true or false result. And so does this. And if we assume that the filter expects true or false, true being I want to keep that element, and false being I reject it. Well, if I just pass this, if the age is bigger than the one provided, it's going to give us true, which is what's going to be returned, meaning the element's going to be kept, and vice versa. Does that make sense? So this is just kind of I wanted to show you this because sometimes when you search for answers, you're going to be seeing, I don't want to call it shortcuts, but leaner versions of that kind of thing. And you know, the long version is what I did before. As far as I'm concerned, you should be doing what makes sense to you. Like don't try to optimize your code and write code that's like lean and smart, quote unquote, if when you read it you don't immediately understand what it does. Readability should be your number one priority. Okay. Any questions on filter before I do an example with just a regular for loop? No? Okay. So let's erase this. So earlier I said you can always create your own variable and modify it and then return that variable instead of using the exercise 5 use filter too. Okay. Okay, we'll look at it after. So here I could create a new array. And here I could do people array dot forEach, which is the same thing as a regular for loop. ForEach doesn't return anything, so I'm not doing something like this, right? Even if I do this, new array is going to be undefined, so there's no point. And here I'm going to go person, and then here I'm going to do if person.age is bigger than age. I'm going to do new array dot push person. Does that work? X for yes, O for no, Z for unsure. Yeah, it does work. If you were to ask me which should you use filter or for each, I would answer, my answer would be, I think you should get familiar with filter as much as possible. If you're having big issues understanding filter, just come in the queue and ask us to clarify things for you, like, and we'll help you. If you're in the middle of the week and there's no TC available and you know how to do it this way, but you don't know how to do it with filter, then by all means, you know, make it work. Yeah, so the final answer, I guess, is it depends. It depends, but I would lean towards filter, filter and map. Boris earlier said something about returning person. Yeah, and I guess I can quickly answer this just by saying, when you use map, the return is not going to be true or false. The return is going to be your return statement is what's going to be pushed in the new array. So if I do, I believe I did this last time, but I'm going to do it again because I think it's a good way of teaching how map works. Array. Okay. Here, I'll shorten this. Could you all please type in the chat what you think is the result of this program? Okay. Anything else? Fine. Anything else? Okay, interesting. Anything else? I'll wait another 10 seconds and then I'll run the program. All right, here's the answer. Final answer is an array with 2 undefined. Why is that? We didn't return, that's correct. If I was to ask you, if you have a function, and let's say the function does something, let's say it does, it pushes number 3. Element is equal to element plus 1. Oh, interesting. Okay. Let me pause on this. Does this work? X for yes, O for no, Z for unsure. So mostly yes, yeses. Oh, Alex is rebellious. Alex is being rebellious, but mostly yeses. Okay, let's see. No, it's still undefined and undefined. Here's a final one for you. And now at this point, you'll lose all confidence. But that's part of what's fun about this. Now, does this work? X for yes, O for no. Z. No way. Okay. So, oh, you know what? I was expecting this one to work. Wait. Is it lagging behind or something? Oh, whoa, whoa. Wait, why does this not work? This is supposed to work. Array at index I. Yeah, it's absolutely supposed to work. What's going on? Oh, yeah. Okay, here's what's going on. So, okay. Here's what I should have done. Okay, let's go back just 1 minute. Here's the thing. When we do this, we assume that the original element is going to be incremented by 1. But what we're console logging is the result of the map, right? Which is not the same thing. So even if even if this worked, console logging new array would still not give us the intended result. Does that make sense? Now, if I do this, let me run this. Here's the thing. So as you can see, if I do this, it changes the value of the original array. But still, new array is still undefined. Now, why is new array undefined? Let's start with that. Let me ask you this: if if I run this function, what does this function f returns? Type your answer in the chat. It will all make sense soon, I promise. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Here's a tip for you that might change your answer. Where do you see a return statement? Where do you see this? Is it there? Right, there's no return statement. If it's one line, we don't need it. That's just for the conditional. That's only for if and else. Exactly, it will be undefined. So if you don't put a return, JavaScript will finish the work for you. In other languages, you have to put a return. In other languages, you have to do something like, if the function is returning a number, let's say this function returns 10. In other languages, you have to do int for integer, which means a full number. And then you have to return a number. If your function doesn't return anything, you have to do void. And then return, either you return undefined or you just not put anything at all. But in JavaScript, if you don't put a return, basically the way you see it is like this, but the way the code sees it is this way. Okay. So if I ask you what, now that we see it the way JavaScript looks at it, if I ask you what this function f returns, it's obvious, right? It's very obvious. So you really have to have you really have to, when you look at a function and you don't see a return statement, you really have to imagine this extra line at the end. And it will help you, sometimes you'll face bugs, you won't understand what's going on, but if you take the habit of doing this, you'll save yourself a lot of confusion. Okay. So now that we went through this, does that all make sense? The fact that it returns undefined by default if there's no return statement. Can you press X if that makes sense to you? Good, I see a lot of X's, that's good. Now, if we look at this function here, do we see a return statement? We do not. And whatever you return in the inner function is what's going to be pushed in new array, right? And map runs, this loop runs twice because there's 2 elements in the original array. And twice we say, well, in the new array, I want you to push undefined, which is why I get an array with 2 undefined values. Does that make sense? If you put return new array equal array map, would that work? If I return it's like this.
Sorry, like when you're declaring new array, if you put instead, I guess, like return array map, would that work?
Like
I think
this?
I just typed incorrectly. Yeah.
The problem with this is that the return, you really want to separate the 2. So this method here, at the end, when it's done all of its operation, it's going to be equal to something, which is why we store it in this variable. So that's one return, if you wish. That's one thing that's processing and then putting that result somewhere. But what we're discussing here is the return of this inner function, which is executed many times. So if I put return here, it doesn't solve the issue of this inner function. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. And you
I
would,
have another question. With the new way to declare a function, when we have just one line, we don't have to put return, no?
yes, you're right.
Is
Okay.
that automatically, or it's something that I missed?
No, yeah, no, you're correct. So let's talk about that. Before I go forward, I do not encourage you to do your functions this way because I think it encourages you to not put your return statements, and you get used to seeing your maps and your filters not having a return in the inner functions. And I think it's good practice to always put them down. Honestly, when I started coding, even when my functions were one line long, I still did this. And even nowadays, I still, very often do that. But we're still going to talk about this. So the one of the first thing I did, the first question I asked you all was, does this work? And it did not, correct? This is what I'm going to remove this second array. This is what gives us the undefined. But then if I do this, does this work? Answer in the chat. That works. That's correct. That works. Now, why does this work? When you do not put brackets, it does two things. First of all, your function can now only be one line long. And second of all, it does what's called an implicit return, which means it's as if your function looked like this. But JavaScript already has enough invisible magic as it is. And I don't encourage you that you just put more of it in your code, okay? Unless you really like it and you really understand what you're doing. But yeah, I advise against it. Any questions about everything we just went through? Anything you would want clarified? Please don't be shy. No? The meeting will stop in, the call will stop in 3 minutes. But I will, if you want to go do your exercises, feel free to do so. I'm going to make another call. I think you can use the same link. And I'll go through exercise 5 for those that want to. And yeah. So I'll stop the call right now and just wait like maybe a minute and then use the same link again, okay? Yes, I'll record the second one for sure. All right, see you soon.